Today we're going to take a quick bicycle ride down Highland Avenue, headed south to north. As 9W runs through the village of Nyack, just before it reaches the village line, Highland Avenue shoots off to the right and heads uphill. Short time later, it makes a 90-degree right-hand turn and cuts through the former Nyack College property, then makes a 90-degree sweeper to the left and heads around the mountain. The reason we like it is the last mile or so is dirt. So we'll start on Tweed Boulevard at the former South Nyack line and head down to the junction with Highland Avenue. Now, Highland has been a public road for more than 200 years. Since World War II, though, it hasn't seen much vehicular traffic. It's used mostly by hikers, dog walkers, bicyclists, and cross-country skiers. It is, even officially, part of the New York State Long Path Trail Network. Highland originally followed the path of what's now Tweed Boulevard, and this was how people in Orangeburg and Blauvelt got to Nyack in the early 1800s. But when we reach the junction, there's a locked gate across the road. Now, in New York State, a locked gate means no trespassing. You go by it, you can get locked up. It was even worse in the summertime. Not only was the locked gate there were no trespassing private property signs in the trees surrounding the road. And not just at the junction, these went down the actual road, in the woods. Now, Nyack College owned a considerable amount of property on the mountain, and when the yeshiva Biznitz bought the property, for religious reasons, they started installing 2x4s on trees and telephone poles and roping off areas with thin pieces of rope. Unfortunately, they didn't just rope off their own property, they roped off areas that didn't belong to them, particularly some at the northern end of Highland Avenue. Now, I know the locked gate is illegal, so I scoot by it and start riding down the road. It's a fairly smooth proposition here and slightly downhill. It's an easy hike, it's easy for someone skiing, and on a bicycle you don't even have to pedal headed south to north, you can just coast. About 800 feet down the road, you begin to see a water tower. Now, this water tower is owned by the Nyack Water Company, and it's been placed at the top of the mountain so that people in South Nyack who live on the mountain will have water pressure. It's surrounded by a barbed wire fence. It has numerous security devices there. And the property they own is minuscule, and they have every right to drive in and out to the tower, but they are the ones who blocked off the road and put up the signs. Despite the fact that they have video surveillance and alarms all over the place, they claim that they need to block off the entire area from anybody using it for security. But it doesn't seem like they need a whole lot of security there. Well, today, we're not going to stop and mug for their video cameras or do anything immature. We're just going to head on down the trail and ride around the mountain. That's why we're here. Now, as soon as you get past the water tower, the road goes down a rough downhill chute and starts to head around the mountain. It's actually curved, but it seems like it's straight as you ride it. As you start this area, you're in an area where you have high mountains to the left of you and steep cliffs and inclines to the right. You really feel like you're out in the wilderness. There's no question that this is a wild area. The road was built in either the late 1700s or early 1800s, and part of it is a natural ledge, but part of it has been filled in and then paved with small field stones. So it's not terribly smooth. You don't want to get on a bicycle and start hauling down there because you'll fall. In the summertime, it's a completely different feeling on the road. The vegetation is so intense that you feel as if you're in a tunnel part of the time and then come into these areas of bright sunshine and grass. It's kind of an interesting transition. In the wintertime, though, without the vegetation, you get spectacular views of the river and the lower village, and it's quite impressive. In both cases, you feel like you're experiencing something wild and rugged, and it's not uncommon to see deers, foxes, eagles, hawks, sometimes even an occasional bear trundling along. It takes 5 or 6 minutes to run the road around the mountain, but as you get to the end of it, you go through a couple of steep downhills, and you come out actually very close to houses now for the last 1,000 feet or so. Now, in New York State, if a road is abandoned and not used as a road anymore, and this can only happen if the town or village formally abandons it, it reverts to the property owners adjoining the road. Here, at the end of the dirt section, there are a number of really expensive houses right up against the road. We've had no problems with the well-to-do people, only with the business and the water company. But if this road were abandoned, which Orangetown seems like they're willing to do, this property would revert to all of those who own property along it. And they could block it off if they wish to.